All right, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating medical mystery. It's about a type of trauma that it doesn't follow the rules we think it should. We're talking about a silent alarm that can get stuck deep inside our brain long, long after a crisis is over.
Okay, so the whole thing really kicks off with a paradox. It's a puzzle, really. And it all starts with a question about what actually traumatizes our bodies when we're in a crisis. So just think about this for a sec. I mean, on the surface, the answer probably seems super obvious, right? Well, what we're about to find out is that our gut feeling about what causes trauma, it might be completely backwards. Okay, so let's put two life-threatening events side by side. First up, you've got a heart attack. Now this is where the arteries slowly, over hours, start to close up. The person is awake, they're conscious, and they're often filled with this prolonged, intense fear. You know, that terrifying thought of, am I gonna die? But then you have something totally different. Sudden cardiac arrest. This is instant. The heart's electrical signal just fails. Poof. The person collapses. It's like the lights just go out. Zero conscious suffering. No fear, not even an awareness of what's happening.
So you'd think the one with hours of conscious terror would cause way more trauma, wouldn't you? But get this. The data tells a completely different story. So for heart attack survivors, the PTSD rate is around 12%. But for survivors of sudden cardiac arrest, remember the event with no conscious experience, the PTSD rates are 2 to 3 times higher, somewhere between 20 and 36%. So what on earth is going on here? This makes no sense, right? All right, to figure this mystery out, we first have to rule out all the usual suspects. You know, the things our common sense screams should be the cause. Okay, first off, it's clearly not about how long you were consciously aware of the danger. The heart attack example just blows that theory out of the water. Hours of awareness actually led to less trauma, not more. So that's not it. And you know what else it's not? It's not the prolonged physical stress on the body. That whole fight or flight response, the racing heart, the sweating, even that doesn't explain this huge, huge difference in PTSD rates. So that's out too. And this is the most counterintuitive part of all. The psychological trauma isn't primarily caused by the emotional fear of dying. The group that had zero conscious fear is the one that suffered the most. The mystery is only getting deeper. So if it's not our conscious thoughts and it's not our feelings, what is it? Well, the real cause lies much, much deeper. We're talking about a primal survival system that operates completely without our permission. It's a system called the shock alarm pathway. Now, the best way to think about this is like a biological seismic sensor buried deep in your brainstem. When your body experiences some kind of catastrophic failure, like a sudden loss of oxygen during a cardiac arrest, this system fires off an incredibly powerful shock signal, way, way before your conscious, thinking brain even has a clue what's going on. So here's how it all goes down. A crisis signal from the body, boom, hits the brainstem. This deep survival hub instantly triggers that shock alarm. But here's the absolute key. That raw physical shock gets imprinted, almost like a brand, before you're even aware of anything. So the trauma isn't the memory of the event, it's the physical imprint of the shock itself. It's an alarm that basically gets stuck in the on position. And this quote just illustrates the urgency of it so brilliantly. It says, "The shock immediately bypasses our emotional and defense systems." You see, it's not about feeling scared. It's a raw biological command to the body that's just screaming, "Wake up now." It is pure, unfiltered survival. Okay, so if this alarm is stuck deep, deep down in the brainstem, how in the world do you turn it off? I mean, how do you even reach it down there? Well, the answer, it turns out, is a really groundbreaking therapy called deep brain reorienting, or DBR for short. And what makes it so different is that unlike traditional therapies that focus on your thoughts and your memories, DBR is designed to go deeper, to directly access and finally release that physical shock that's been imprinted on the brainstem. And this is why it's such a big deal. You know, as this review in World Psychiatry points out, traditional PTSD treatments, they just don't work for everybody. DBR really represents a whole new path forward because it's targeting the neurobiological root that other therapies simply can't get to. But what does releasing this deep shock actually feel like? Let's look at a couple of real stories that show exactly how this process works in real life.
So let's meet Ivan. He survived a cardiac event, but his life was actually saved by an implanted defibrillator that delivered this massive electrical shock to his chest. And that life-saving shock, it left him deeply, deeply traumatized.
And Ivan's own words, man, they just get right to the heart of it. He said, it's like the shock itself pulls you out of yourself. This isn't a memory of fear. It's this profound physical disorientation, a feeling of the mind and body being just ripped apart. That right there is the signature of a deep brainstem shock.
Before DBR, Ivan's life was just a living nightmare. We're talking nightly flashbacks that replayed like a movie, severe insomnia, constant heart palpitations and chest tightness. His mind was just trapped, replaying that shock over and over and over again, completely unable to focus on the present. His alarm was stuck on the highest possible alert.
But just listen to what he said after only one DBR session. My heart is quieter. Wow. I mean, that is the sound of the alarm finally being turned down. He describes this shift from being trapped in all that internal chaos to just being grounded in the external world again. And the results were just stunning. After only 2 sessions, the flashbacks were completely gone. His sleep was back to normal. That imprinted shock had finally been released, and he was free to actually move forward with his life.
And it's not just for events like Ivan's. Or take Alana, who suffered for 8 months from a life-threatening condition that doctors kept misdiagnosing. That whole experience left her feeling betrayed and just terrified of her own body. DBR helped resolve that deep, deep terror, allowing her to finally trust her body again and reclaim her life, to socialize, even date again. You know, we've been talking about these major medical events, but this whole mechanism, it can apply to any overwhelming physical shock. And it all leads to this final, pretty provocative question. If our bodies can hold on to the physical imprint of a crisis without our conscious mind even knowing it, how many of us are walking around with a silent, stuck alarm from some past shock we don't even remember as being traumatic?